Hey, this is Marty Matulis. I play Vane on The Mandalorian, and you're watching the Virtual Cantina Network.
Hello, everyone. Happy Batman Day. It is September 21st, 2024. We are recording, and this is the 75th episode of the Unifying Force. I'm Kat, joined by Dave and Gio. How's people doing today?
Hey, doing just fine.
Yeah, doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, and we're here to pay tribute to the great James Earl Jones, the latest member of the Star Wars family that we have lost.
Yes, and I wanted to get this in super early because you guys gave me crap last time when we did a memorial to Carl Weathers. We didn't display some of Carl's work and tribute stuff early on, so making sure that I don't get chastised again in the post show.
Yeah, I like that homework.
Yes,
It's a nice little A grade to start off. It's there's a lot to say. It's hard to really know where to begin, but it's one of the, I guess, biggest losses for Star Wars and for acting and performing in general in a generation, covering multiple generations. It's great that he managed to live a very long, healthy, and successful life. And he's made an indelible mark upon Star Wars, upon so many films, upon the stage, and in a lot of viewers and fans' lives. So, who wants to begin?
I mean, I'll say a little preface is like, this one hurt. I mean, this did not hurt with the same shock that Carrie's death did a few years ago, because, Carrie was a much younger person at the time. And, he was 93 years old. He was an iconic. He's been everywhere. But it's just, I can't believe that the voice of Darth Vader and Mufasa and so many other things is just gone at this point. But I have been extremely heartened to see all the tributes to him that continue to go on over the weeks. As we shoot this is a couple weeks out removed from his death now, and we're still here and we're still thinking about him, and that I think is going to be part of his legacy is the work of James Earl Jones will live forever. I really believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a body of work that'll stand the test of time. And I think we're really lucky to have been at a time where we can kind of live in his era and enjoy his acting and his vocal performances for decades, really. And beyond the lifespan of some of us and a lot of people who grow up, seeing his films, hearing his voice, maybe on adverts or announcements, on the news, famously CNN.
Yes.
So it's it's a difficult one.
Yeah, I mean, do the math on that. IMDb lists his first credited work as 1966, and his last in 2022.
False. He was in Doctor Strangelove in 1964.
Aha. Well.
Yeah.
Yes, he played Lieutenant Lothar Zog.
So here's the weirdness then there, that IMDb puts that at the bottom, but you're right. Dr. Strangelove is, and other work from 1964 is above that. So I'm not entirely. Oh, okay. IMDb lists those later because he appeared in episodes in 66, But the show, they were soap operas, Guiding Light and As the World Turns, and the show's dates preceded that. They started in 52, where he came in 66. So that is a little bit. So yes, 64 is Strangelove. He appeared in, is this a TV series called Monitor as the Prince of Morocco in 1962. So let's say that.
Probably
So
TV.
1962 to 2022. And the body of work is just pages. It's pages.
Oh yeah, 60 years worth of material there to mine.
Yeah, and I think his stage debut, at least his Broadway debut, was 1957. A production of Sunrise at Campobello. And I think he actually earned his first nomination for a big award, so his first Tony nomination for that, which is actually crazy because as a debut to have something that's that acclaimed and recognized, especially at a time in, let's just put that into context, 1957, this is pre-civil rights movement and civil rights act. So for a character of color, an African-American actor, to do that, it just speaks to his level of performance and the charisma and charm that he had on stage as well as on screen.
Oh yeah, and a fabulous stage actor, probably arguably as good as or better or should be better known or accomplished as a stage actor. He won, did he not get he was Oscar nominated, I believe, at least, for The Great White Hope, which he originated that role on the stage before the movie version in 1970. So yeah, he'd been doing this, and I think he's one of the 20 some odd people, I think, who have won like an Oscar, a Tony, a Grammy,
And an Emmy?
What's that?
And an Emmy?
Yeah.
Did you get one?
Yes,
Yeah.
and an Emmy. Yeah, all of those things.
He's got the EGOT.
Yes.
Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony.
Yeah.
And in some
He also
cases, multiple.
got a Screen Actors Guild Lifetime Achievement Award
Mm-hmm.
and an Academy Honorary Award because I don't think he won one in his career.
Yeah, I think that's the asterisk on his EGOT is his Oscars are honorary or lifetime or achievement awards, not ones that were within competition. So, but still, there's like
it still counts.
There's like 20 some odd people in the world or something who accomplished that feat. But so all right, let's get it out of the way and let's talk about, we've mentioned some of the things. Let's talk about his work as Vader. What we're here on this channel is what I'm sure all of us know him best as, and we'll get into some of the other things later. See there, right there, it's always lurking right into the frame. So talk about James Earl Jones's Vader, Gio.
So I think from the moment you see Vader step in Star Wars Episode 4, there's I just remember thinking, oh, this is kind of spine tingling, seeing this kind of black specter appear in the corridor and the way he kind of walks around. And then as soon as you hear the voice, that kind of bass booming, authoritative, singular performance, just the first words he speaks, I remember just getting goosebumps thinking, wow, this is you don't want to be messing with this guy. And I think it's actually really interesting looking through the original trilogy how he's quite loud and abrasive as Vader to begin with, and Rogue One did a great job of showing us why he was particularly peed off at that moment. But I think the power of his voice was even felt in quieter moments, when he's not being theatrical and he's just imparting his own kind of stamp and character on more nuanced and subtle dialogue. And that's why, to me, for Star Wars, it's his moments with Luke, I think in Return of the Jedi, and talking about the you don't know the power of the dark side, that he must obey his master, and also kind of reaching out to Luke at any point, whether it's when they're side by side in Jedi, or when they're across the stars from a Star Destroyer to a ship at the end of The Empire Strikes Back. It's those moments with Luke, the quieter moments, that I think are the most impactful Star Wars memories I have of Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm.
Much more than any nose or guttural screams or anything else that came after. And I think sometimes it's easy to forget that some of those classic lines are more understated and less theatrical. And even one of the most misquoted lines of all time, when Vader's talking to Luke in Empire and does the reveal. Again, it's kind of underplayed. He's not kind of screaming at the top of his lungs about this, huge plot twist to Luke. He's appealing to him, and he's trying to endear himself to Luke, even though he's just lopped off his hand. So there's I always feel that James Earl Jones's best moments for me are the quieter moments.
Yeah. Kat?
Yeah, he's great as that voice, perfect for it. Brings the commanding authority to it a lot more than David Prowse's natural voice did.
Yeah, if you've ever heard Prowse's, because Prowse did the lines in the suit on set, and there are tapes of that. Now, I mean, if they'd kept Prowse's voice, they'd have post-processed it. They'd have done something, but still, it would not have been this.
Yeah, so he's, it's a really great voice. What else do you want me to say? He was really great as Darth Vader. He was also,
no one else could have done it.
Actually, not credited until Return of the Jedi.
Yes, that's the one of the things that I don't think people really realize is when you look down on the IMDb, he's not credited. They were not intending on saying anything about this.
There he is.
Is he just? I also think if they didn't have this costume, they could have put him in any Imperial outfit, and he'd still pull off the same level of intimidation as Darth Vader, because he's that good. Unfortunately, you don't get to see that, because you could tell that even when you're watching it, that there's somebody else in the suit versus, in terms of whether the voice matches at times. But it's he would have brought a lot of gravitas if they'd given him a role. I thought it would have been nice if they gave him a walk-on role outside of the mask or something, even if he didn't have to say anything, to kind of see him there.
Yeah, but you'd have had to do it the opposite way, because he couldn't have opened his mouth. You had to use some other person's voice.
Well, I just said he doesn't have to say anything to be a walk-on role.
Yeah, because other than that, it's we're going to go.
having just recently revisited Conan the Barbarian from 1982, just to appreciate James Earl Jones, just as a little side note. I could totally imagine him being one of those Rancor owners at the background of Jabba's palace. Just with the
he's also the last of the 4 original Darth Vader actors, or was the last amongst them. The others, of course, being Bob Anderson, David Prowse, and Sebastian Shaw. Yeah, and he got the one. They can't replace him as much as they try. But he brings all the gravitas to that role, and I'm not sure. George, in the documentaries, he just mentions that he got a call one day, and I don't know if that was a thing because we know that George brought in he didn't say who it was. It was probably Mel Blanc when he wanted to get a voice for 3PO, and he told him that Daniels is perfect for the voice because he is that character. But I don't know if he thought of anybody else before casting Vader. That's never really been discussed. So I guess he just kind of is like, oh yeah, it's got to be him.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that I've ever heard a story about where George would have seen him before, or if George ever revealed where he had seen or heard.
There might be something about it in the Rinsler book that I got down there, but I can't remember any unique thing jumping out as to how he got that role. Like even James says that when George approached him, he wanted like this deeper, darker type of role because he had that great baritone voice that just brings it automatically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
He certainly
I like what both of you said is it's the greatest voice. It was the perfect for it. Some of his smaller lines, the no, I am your father. It's not the screaming. It's a statement right there. It's not the misquoted thing that everybody does. Who does it louder? Is Luke? I am no. I am your father, and the intonation on that. But the other things too is impressive, most impressive. All of these things.
Well, there was even that segment from the Letterman show where they had James Earl Jones saying random things to make it seem more dark and intimidating, and you can tell he's over delivering the line for that express purpose. Because yes, when you hear his regular talking voice, it is the same, but he doesn't put the the extra bit into it like he does when he's playing Vader. But that's
I think it's kind of like not as overacting, but there's definitely the more pause and put it in there like Shatnerisms. You know what I'm saying? Is he doesn't have the Shatner with a pause that's in the wrong place.
Thank God.
But he does have that, and he gets the timing, and whether that's someone told him to do that or he just does that, I'm giving him the credit for it anyway.
I do love the story that he told her. When people come up to him and would misquote the line, he would pretend to force choke him as punishment for not saying the right line.
Yes, I love that when he says that one. That is just absolutely perfect.
When Star Wars was out in '77, did George? I'm trying to think of a way that I feel this is an out of left field thing that George Lucas might have come across his voice before. He was the first. Oh,
right
nice.
there. A lot of Star Wars fans come up to me and ask me to say, "Luke, I am your father," and I remind them the quote is actually, "No, I am your father," and then I use the Force to choke them within an inch of their life, and while they weep and beg for forgiveness.
I love my fans. That's a great line.
That is great. Did he ever do the big convention stuff? Because I'm not really starstruck, but he's someone that I would have loved to have seen.
I don't think so. I never heard that he was ever at any of those panels or at any of the signings. Because let's see, what was his last credited stuff? I think was pretty much. Well, the voice work on The Lion King. From
last credited things, voice work would have been Obi-Wan Kenobi show.
No, he didn't do those.
He is credited for that. It is the AI,
right?
But
it's not him.
He was apparently, allegedly, at least what they say, very instrumental in getting the AI to do what it was supposed to do. So he is, I believe, credited for that. His last live action, I think, was the sequel to Coming to America.
Yes, it is.
That was 2022 or 21, I think.
21.
21. Yeah. And then the last time he voiced Vader without any AI or anything like that was Rogue One in 2016.
Or didn't he do Skywalker?
The Rise of Skywalker. He has that one.
Reminded him Rise of Skywalker.
He's got that one line. I've been every voice you've ever heard, and then he says "inside your head" to Kylo Ren just before he confronts the Emperor.
Yeah.
So it's like 4 words, but
all sorts of big ones. Like I said, is it's this and this and this, and you forget is I'll roll back to the top of the IMDb. Is they credit him for Obi-Wan Kenobi series, Coming to America, Rise of Skywalker in 2019, the live action CGI Lion King from 2019 as well. Then
And are they using his voice AI wise for the new Lion King prequel thing?
So it is not listed in the IMDb that there is another actor that is credited as Mufasa for the Lion King prequel, I guess is what it is. So there's another actor that's listed for that. I would assume that they're doing kind of what they are doing for Transformers 1 is, since this is a prequel, they're getting another actor to be his younger voice. Since Optimus Prime is Hemsworth, not Peter Cullen in Transformers 1. Which
Well, it's the same thing when they recast all the voices for the Mario movie. And it's like, why?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand that logic when it comes to animated. It's like kids are going to like it and fans are going to like it regardless. Like, the older fans prefer you have the original voice. The kids would want it to be the original voice. Nobody cares if there's celebrity power behind it.
Yeah. I really hate that habit that big animation studios and films tend to do. Get the celebrity voiceover. No, there's like thousands of great voiceover actors and performers.
Right.
Let them have their flowers.
Yeah, I question whether or not hearing, Hemsworth as Optimus Prime, whatever his name was before he was Optimus Prime, is just going to take you out of it. It's like, wait, that's no.
Yeah, it could be a bit distracting. I think it's just really awesome how Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader have two of the best and most impressionable voices ever. That they are two of the best voice actors of all time. Mark Hamill, James Earl Jones.
Oh yeah.
For that to happen when there's like a generational difference and like a hero-villain difference is, I think, awesome, because you could say that James Earl Jones's other most popular role is Mufasa, who's a noble hero, and for Mark Hamill it's the inverse as well. The most psychotic supervillain of all time is his alter ego, as the Joker.
It really
it's an
is.
interesting kind of dichotomy.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of like the voice acting and stuff like that, is how you can switch that up, is because James Earl Jones, I can't. Well, Conan, I guess he was the villain in Conan, right? Yeah. But most of his other work, his live action work, is him as a hero, or at least a person struggling and striving to be a good person. It's that just the kind of voice work, and really just Vader that's that, right?
It's just what?
It's him as a villain. The Conan and then
Let's see, what else is he in this? I'm checking his filmography right now over here.
Yeah.
So you could say that he's got like the complex, flawed heroes.
And here's the great thing too, is he's not. He's not too proud to do Vader the voice in anything and everything. I mean, he's credited as the voice of Darth Vader in Monopoly Star Wars. Okay. He's like, I'll come and do the voice for the Monopoly game. Sure.
Yeah. I think he even did a GPS voice at one time for like Garmin or something when they tried to do celebrity voices guiding you on the road.
He also voiced Darth Vader in the Benchwarmers. This guy has one of the characters. You got to throw him with Adam Sandler. He was in Rob Schneider, David Spade, John Heder, John Lovitz, all these people. and he plays he voices like this security checkpoint box that this guy has outside his house. But he was officially as Darth, and the idea is that the checkbox is Darth Vader, not James Earl Jones. So he credited for that as Vader, for the Star Wars movies as Vader, and then didn't they get him to come back for Rebels for a few of those?
They did, yeah. In season 2, that's him. At the end of season 1, and they had Sam Witwer as Palpatine introducing Vader at the season 1 finale of Rebels, and then in season 2, the kind of cap beginning and end of season 2, it's very Vader heavy, and they have James Earl Jones fully back for that, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely great. I mean, one of my favorite little side project things that I've only heard snippets of, and I may at some point now need to really get my hands on it, is James Earl Jones reads the King James Bible.
Can you imagine how long it would have taken to record that?
Yeah.
That's just like, wow.
Let's see, I'm looking up here trying to find if there's any other.
Just on where George Lucas might have come across his voice before casting him in Star Wars or thinking of him, I was trying to gauge roughly how old George Lucas's kids might have been, or if they were even around for Star Wars 1977. Because I found.
I don't think so. That was the 77. No, I don't think so. Because in 86, no, they would have just been born, because wasn't it that his daughter was old enough to really be in love with Ewoks by the time of Jedi? And that's really why he made the Ewok movies.
Right. So it's okay. So this is potentially could line up. Let's say
that's right. George Lucas was originally going to get Orson Welles, but he thought the name was too recognizable. The voice was too recognizable.
Again, thank God.
Let's see. He would have been a very good Vader, though. Let's see. George Lucas actually considered asking him.
A very different Vader. I think it.
He could have seen The Great White Hope in 1970. It's entirely possible that
James Earl Jones. All of his voice work for the original Star Wars was recorded in one day in March 1977.
He paid, I think $7,000 for it.
Yeah, it was $7,000, and it was like 2 hours in the studio. And I don't think he did any. It's like voiceover work is normally very, very heavy on redos and multiple takes. And I think I found an interview where he was basically saying he kind of just did it off the cuff, first take for most of it, was in and out, and that's why he considered his work, one, in a very humble way, not really worth having credit on screen at the end of the film, but also he considered his voice more of a special effect because he didn't have an on-screen presence. And so he wanted more to give the accolades to Dave Prowse and Bob Anderson in the suit.
And that is also why James Earl Jones actually made the decision to not be credited for Star Wars or Empire Strikes Back. And if people asked him, he flat out denied that he voiced Vader in either of those movies, because he said that David Prowse created that character, and then it wasn't until Return of the Jedi that he finally was convinced to, change his mind and let himself be credited. So that's pretty cool.
Well, and he did all the things too. As I'm looking here, it is James Earl Jones in the holiday special and in the cartoon for the Story of the Faithful Wookiee.
That's pretty cool.
So he was actually also it's a link I found quite recently. I've just shared it with you guys. I don't know if we have the ability to play the audio. Seeing as he's a voice
but play the audio, it can kind of get us shut down.
1969, Sesame Street. He was the first guest star reading the alphabet.
Yeah.
So that's why I asked about the age of George Lucas's children, because it kind of could almost fit, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's an accomplishment in itself. I did not imagine that there was ever a time or a thing where Sesame Street didn't have, special celebrity guests and people on, but to know that he was the first, that's a cool one right there. I've seen the pictures of like him and Big Bird, and I imagine at some point there were like crossover and people that he knew from Sesame Street that were probably working on Jedi.
Yeah.
So
Frank Oz.
yeah, is I'm betting at some of the points that it's like, oh, we're back with the
puppeteers and
I've wondered if I don't know if like by the time he's doing Empire, did he know Billy D from the stage? Is Billy D. Williams did everything anywhere on stage before his movie career took off with Star Wars and other things.
This is crazy. I decided to cheat and Googled James Earl Jones villain roles.
Yeah.
And the only ones that came up with were Darth Vader and Thulsa Doom.
See, I told you.
Yeah.
He's
exactly
the good guy in everything else. And whereas Mark Hamill starts as the good guy here and then goes to be the villain, it's completely.
Yeah, it's the crossover. The moral crossover. The heroic crossover. Yeah, that's quite a pattern for the two of them to have.
Yeah.
I think also you come across. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, like the stories about him not wanting credit and the way he interacted with fans and the way in which it seems everyone always thought of him very fondly and had nothing but praise and warmth to say about him. He obviously had a very particular affect that endeared people to him, even beyond his performances, and that comes out in the tributes constantly.
Well, and I think in some ways, the character of himself that he played as himself on The Big Bang Theory, it kind of strikes a chord as to how he was at least some of the time. Is people come up to him and it's like, "Aren't you?" "Yes, I am your father." That sort of thing. That he could just do that on the street or whatever. I think just a little bit of a stretch to get to where you're playing Ding Dong Ditch against Carrie Fisher with James Earl Jones in the flesh, but maybe it could have maybe not been a reach.
Yeah. I think one of the most extraordinary things, and it's probably very well known now, and you kind of hear similar stories a lot with actors, in that when they have some difficulty early on in their childhood, it kind of creates this resilience or strength that allows them to flourish later.
Mm-hmm.
And with James Earl Jones, we have that because famously he had a speech impediment, and he was a stutterer when he was, just forming his early words, and he was a late developer in terms of, I think, only speaking when he was 4 years old. He came across with this difficulty with his speech, and then he was selectively mute effectively for 10 years until he was 14 years old. I think the interview that I saw, he was in the 9th grade and he just had an English teacher that really encouraged him and was saying, Jim, you're writing poetry, but I want to hear your voice when you're writing in your voice. And that was the encouragement he needed to then really just take his time and find his moment, center himself, and then start speaking as he wanted to. And again, thank God he did, because
Indeed,
what a voice to give everyone and to share with us.
He also lent his voice as Vader to Star Tours The Adventures Continue in 2011.
Yeah. Anything and everything is not too proud to do that, or to have some other person do a voice match or whatever in almost anything. It's James Earl Jones. And I think that's a good credit, because that's a similar kind of credit that Anthony Daniels has as well, is he'll do C-3PO for anything. It's there. I'll show up. If you ask, it's good. It's that continuing through line. It's James Earl Jones and it's Anthony Daniels that do all the Star Wars things. But all the other things too is James Earl Jones, iconic. He's Vader, great, but he's iconic. It's so many other things. So I'm in the theater, and I'm watching a movie that you're not expecting anything at all to be, oh, it's not Star Wars, it's, I'm not there. And I'm watching a movie with a good friend of mine in, oh, I don't know, that's what year was that? It's like 1992 ish, maybe. And so huge dramatic moment on the screen going on. It's like his father is talking to his son and he's telling him about the world and how everything is. And it's that great moment about the stars being the kings of the past. And my friend leans over and whispers in my ear, it's like, Luke, I am your father. I'm like, shut up. This is a great line here. It's like, no, he's not just Vader. He's also Mufasa. So let's talk about James Earl Jones as Mufasa. Is like, man, the Disney Renaissance got some voices to put in their animated movies. And The Lion King was absolutely no exception to that, right? Would Mufasa have had the gravitas without James Earl Jones? I mean, no, he's playing against, you have to get somebody who can be the better guy to play against Jeremy Irons.
Mm.
You know, is like, oh, it's the bad guy. I've already cast this guy. Who do I get that can be more powerful than him? And obviously done. And then, well, and you forget too, is the other actors in there are Matthew Broderick, who at that point absolutely no slouch himself. And young Simba was on top of the world with Home Improvement. That was Jonathan Taylor Thomas. It just, but again, who still comes through and kind of steals the show on that, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah. In an ensemble, star-studded cast, he's still the standout kind of supernova there.
Yeah, that was 1994. I was a little bit wrong. And still, even amongst voice actors, I'm looking in here and absolutely insanely, Matthew Broderick, Jeremy Irons, James Earl Jones, Whoopi Goldberg, Rowan Atkinson, Jim Cummings, the voice of all voices, any sort of animated voice ever, Robert Guillaume, Nathan Lane, Cheech Marin, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, so many iconic people in there, and it's Mufasa.
I think to me, on a personal level, in all of film and TV and everything visual that I've consumed, the scene with the stampede,
Mm-hmm.
1/3 of the way through The Lion King, having really only heard Mufasa, and that the emotion and the humanity is just through James Earl Jones's voice. The animation is incredible, and the art team that created the Mufasa character, and it complements, somehow I feel it complements the voice, and the voice complements the image of Mufasa that we get. It just, there's such a synchronicity there that's perfect. It marries up so well, so that the scene where you have Mufasa die will forever be one of the most emotive scenes anywhere for me. And that's just the sight of this animated character no longer speaking, and having Simba, just try to understand and, reconcile with this traumatic death. And you see it, listed amongst the top scenes of movie scenes that make adults cry, and so on and so forth. And that's purely on the magic and majesty in his voice, that when you suddenly don't have it anymore and you see the body, that really impacts you in a heavy way.
I have found another villain that he did play.
Okay.
In 1972 on stage, he played Claudius in Hamlet, the main antagonist.
I was going to say there's a Shakespearean one, and thinking of The Lion King, I was going to say also Hamlet, the reference. Nice.
Well,
He also played Othello twice in two different decades, in the 70s and the 80s. But yes, he did play a villain in Hamlet.
yeah. Well, and you kind of got to get the irony too if you are deep into the James Earl Jones lore. If you sat there and watched his I think, kind of most iconic scene in Coming to America, when King Joffrey comes up and he's coming in to see his son with the big dead lion across his shoulder.
Yeah.
You're like, no, he's the dead lion, lady. It's him.
That lion didn't
Mufasa
have a
is
red
on
mane, and that was
Joffrey's
5 years
shoulder.
earlier, or 6 years earlier.
Yeah.
Oh,
I killed Mufasa. They should have made a fourth wall breaking joke about that in the sequel. I never saw the sequel, but I'm sure they didn't do that. But that would have been funny.
Oh, that would have been funny. I don't remember. I will have to go and
Yeah.
watch the sequel. I know,
don't,
but
my
I
knowledge,
have to watch that again just to see.
it's a
You
fun.
could kind of consider that character an antagonist in Coming to America, because he doesn't want to listen to his son, and just trying to. God, it takes all the way to the very end of the movie till he finally comes around.
Perhaps, but I think that's one of the characters, like his character in Fences, who isn't in the play Fences, he's not necessarily the nicest of guys to his son, but he's doing it from a place of
Yes,
love and there's another word I'm looking for. It's he's doing it because that's his job. That's what he's doing. That is, he wants the best for his son, and he's working hard to do that. That particular scene in Fences, it has popped up a lot in the memories of James Earl Jones, and I've watched it multiple times, and it's really powerful. If you have not ever seen Fences, like, go to the YouTubes right after you're done here, and Google James Earl Jones Fences and watch that.
Denzel Washington was very good in the film adaptation of that as well.
Yeah, that I was going to say, that's another sign of how much of a trailblazer James Earl Jones was, and how he paved the path for so many people afterwards to continue and to flourish in their own careers, because he made that character iconic on Broadway, and he definitely inspired the people that were younger than him coming up, like Denzel Washington, like Morgan Freeman. There's and of course not just single race actors, just actors from all across every kind of background and experience that they have. The number of people who have amazing things to say about James Earl Jones is it almost feels infinite when you
It really does.
Scroll these
and we haven't even touched on some of his iconic things yet. Let's talk about Field of Dreams.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, if you want to do your top 10 James Earl Jones lines, your first 3 are probably Star Wars, but number 4 is Field of Dreams. Is, if you build it, he will come, right? People, if you build it, they will come. That kind of character reminds you of people. What you were just talking about, Gio, is actors seeking out James Earl Jones. He's playing Terrance Mann, who is this author of all this remarkable, amazing stuff, who is not seeking credit for it, who's gone down, who's behind the scenes and just very quietly living his life. And Kevin Costner seeks him out, and because of how influential he was on that generation, and ironically or on purposely written that way, is that movie becomes so impactful.
Was the line, if you build it, they will come, or was it, if you build it, he will come?
I think as you build it, they will come.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm reasonably sure that it's that, but again, maybe that's one of those misquoted lines that he did it.
That's it.
I'm remembering it as a he, if I'm being honest, but
Yeah, I think that's what I'm reading here on a post, but I'm not sure. I actually haven't seen this movie. It's on the pile.
So I think possibly it may be both, because just from remembering the movie, they're talking about build it, they will come, and all the people come to watch the imaginary, baseball game, the baseball game that's not happening. All the people will come.
Mm.
But what, Kevin Costner's character, Ray, really needs is his deceased father to come to.
That's it. Yeah, the line, it says,
Yeah.
if you build it, he will come. You're right, because he's referring to the father.
Yeah, but the other one is, I think it's you build it, they will come as well, because they're like, people will come, Ray. People will, and there's that whole speech about how they'll just turn off the interstate and they'll come down this dirt road and they'll turn into the corner and they'll
turn up to your driveway.
They'll turn up your driveway without even really knowing why, and that there's that whole long speech that's just dripping with honey from this. Is just
they'll arrive at your doors as innocent as children,
yes,
longing for the past.
Yeah, that absolute whole thing is I think that's right up there. I might have exaggerated more, as it might, your top two might be Star Wars, and number three, or Star Wars Field of Dreams, and he's just there. And then you get a couple down, you probably have a few more Star Wars thrown in there, and then your Mufasa, and I'm not of the generation that knows The Great White Hope as well, or that knows Fences as well, as there may be some of those lines from there that would hit that as well. But a lot of things we talk about on here, it's generational, what you feel and what you believe. It's like your love for Star Wars. Are you an OT person? Are you a prequels person? Are you, heaven forbid, the people, as how some of us feel, are you a sequel person? Where did you come to Star Wars?
Or a Rebels.
Oh yeah, if you came into the animation Clone Wars.
He also played the role of Admiral James Greer in 3 of the Jack Ryan films.
I talked about that on our the virtual Cantina watch along.
Yes, those films being The Hunt for Red October in 1990, Patriot Games in 92, and Clear and Present Danger in 94.
Absolutely. I mean, they felt the need to recast Jack Ryan as, you had to get a different lead there. But no, Admiral Greer remains the same. You need that James Earl Jones goodness.
Yeah, that's the one thing I would change from the first one. I think I like Harrison Ford as Jack Ryan. I thought he was good.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he's better than Alec Baldwin. That was just me.
I think it was the point of that you needed more of a young man in that role to make it believable. I don't know.
Right, that role, for the first one. It's funny looking at both his other, iconic roles for Mufasa and Vader, how they're both juxtaposing the same authoritative presence. Mm. That one is evil, and the other is super kind and generous and embodying all things selfless and good.
As fathers as well.
Yeah, father, and that whole theme, I thought, that whole dichotomy, I thought was really neat, because The Lion King, I would say, is probably the best film of the Disney Renaissance, at least for me. Mm. And that has also stood the test of time, 30th anniversary this year. So that was like, it's funny, as a kid, you hear Darth Vader. A lot of kids first introduced to James Earl Jones through Darth Vader, and it's like, oh, this terrifying thing, and then you hear that same voice, but you don't, you're not like afraid of it. It's just like you're compelled to listen to what he has to say.
He definitely has a shut up and listen voice.
Is your son. Yes. No, I love that one as well, but I will argue about the best film of the Disney Renaissance. Lion King's there, but I'm a Little Mermaid person. I really am.
Yeah.
Love the original. I know it is okay. That's one of those other things. You got to know where you come to it from. If you came to the Disney version of Little Mermaid first, that's the only true version. If you didn't know what it could have been with the Hans Christian Andersen one, you're like, oh, it's a happy story. But now you look back and it's the different kind of thing. But
well, the Hans Christian Andersen version is more of a tragedy.
Yes.
And I did watch a live action Polish version of that set in the modern era called The Lure from 2015. I recommend it. It's very good. but yes, so yes, I just thought that was kind of interesting how Jones could, two iconic characters, both have the same, a lot of parallels and authoritative presences. But he didn't. I'm looking at the other movies he was in. It's like, yeah, he was in a lot of stuff, a lot of TV, but not a ton of big mainstream roles as I would have thought he would have been in. Sort of like Billy D. Williams. I thought after playing Lando with such charisma and everything, he would have had a huge career after that. And then he kind of did a lot of TV and stuff.
Well, yeah, it looks like he would just take whatever he would take. He's got, 2 episodes of LA Law, an episode of Teach 109, which is a TV movie. He's on a TV movie, The Last Flight Out, Grim Prairie Tales, Heat Wave, Ivory Hunters, The Ambulance. He plays a lot of doctors.
Yeah, he was on an episode of House, an episode of 2.5 Men, an episode of Big Bang Theory, and Everwood. 2 episodes of Everwood.
That was a villain role as well. He was a authoritarian dictator in the episode of House, and the kind of
this sounds like a villain role. He played a character called Diablo on Garfield and Friends.
I read that. I wasn't sure of that.
That could go either way.
You never know.
He was even in a movie with Tupac Shakur, gang related. He was also with Jim Belushi about 2 men face the consequences after they kill a man and pin the murder on an innocent transient. He played somebody named Arthur Baylor in that movie.
In his younger days, he played Malcolm X.
He did Malcolm X in The Greatest.
Mm-hmm.
He was in what I believe is the remake of Cry the Beloved Country with Richard Harris in 1995.
He is. That's a film I really want to see, especially given those 2 actors together. His
portrayal in The Sandlot, another iconic baseball movie right there.
He was in both of them. Yeah, the first one in the probably direct-to-TV sequel or direct-to-video sequel they got him back for.
But yeah, still just like, okay, here I'm in an episode of Law and Order. I'm in an episode of, Picket Fences. Remember that show?
Oh, he was also in Sneakers. That was a good comedy.
Oh yeah, Sneakers.
Sidney Poitier, Ben Kingsley, Robert Redford, Dan Aykroyd. Just a great cast.
That's an incredible cast.
David Strathairn, of course, James Earl Jones. That was good. Let's see. Heat Wave. Coming to America. Soul Man.
Third Rock from the Sun. He's in there. Lois and Clark, the Adventures of Superman. Homicide, Life on the Street. The Simpsons. Oh, that was on our. That's right there on there. You're
the Raven. He reads the entire poem.
He is one of the few credited voices of Maggie Simpson.
That's true.
Yeah.
Is in one of the early episodes of, I think, Treehouse of Horror, is like, you hear Maggie speak, and that's James Earl Jones.
You see, he also provided a voice in a Warner Brothers animated film called Flight of the Dragons in 1984, playing a character whose name I cannot really pronounce. 2 different names.
I have to go look this up right now. The late 90s TV series Recess. Apparently, for 2 episodes, James Earl Jones was the voice of Santa Claus.
Yes, he was.
I'm like, I have never seen that, but I'm like, James Earl Jones as Santa Claus. That is now something
I need to hear that. I need to see that. Yeah.
So, okay, that kind of brings us up into a thing. James Earl Jones sold the license to his voice, or gave the license to his voice. I think that the details are extraordinarily muddy for that. But so we know that Lucasfilm, Disney, whoever has the rights to use AI to create the voice of Darth Vader from previous things. And we're talking about all this humongous body of work. Could they, should they, would they, do they have the rights to AI James Earl Jones for whatever the hell they want? Could they make him Santa Claus again?
His voice, they have the rights to because he sold them his voice, and they used the AI and stuff to recreate his voice, kind of like they did that with Alec Guinness for the one-line Rey in Force Awakens. They took pieces of what he was saying and stitched it together or whatever. But Jones sold it for, I don't know how much they paid him for it. They must have paid him a lot because he's like, you can have my voice, you can't contest it. And now that he's dead, you don't have any copyright to yourself after you've passed it. That was a copyright law from the 70s. But since he sold it to them saying you can use it in perpetuity, I guess there must be some other type of copyright around that because he had to sell it rather than. Well, that could have also been because obviously when he sold it, he didn't know he was going to die within a few years, but he sold his voice so that way they could use it as long as they wanted, didn't have to call him up anymore because he was basically retiring.
But the question is there some level of specific that limits the performance to him as Darth Vader? Or could they use, him to narrate the new Disney whatever that's non-Lion King or non-Star Wars?
That would have to be stipulated in the contract, but like I know that they didn't do AI voice to get Tarkin's voice for Rogue One. I think they got somebody who imitated it and tried to layer it or something like that. At least I don't think they dove through his other performances. They might have.
Well, because a lot of people talk about how you can't exactly put your finger on it, but the CGI Luke in The Mandalorian is, disregard the visuals, that there's just something not right about the voice. That it can do it. It sounds like Luke. It sounds like Luke at that point in his life. It sounds like Mark Hamill at that point in his life. But is it a little flat? Is it not? Like you can hear something.
Well, they did something digital to that to kind of de-age the voice as well to try and.
Yeah,
I think they put it through a system to compare it to his voice from when he's younger and try and, do some weird thing that way. But I know that since he sold his voice to Lucasfilm, well, this is like 5 years ago now, they haven't used his voice for anything else.
Yeah.
Like not for documentaries, not for Star Wars featurettes or anything like that. When they could have used him as narrative, they didn't. So I take it's just for Darth Vader. And I assume he would have done that as well because his thinking wasn't like, hey, I'm just going to sell my voice so Disney can do whatever they want with it. It's like, no, he said he recognized that his voice was iconically Darth Vader. So here, you could have my voice as Darth Vader after I'm gone. So I think the terms of the contract in all likelihood would specify that.
I have scoured the internet to look and see because, I don't know, they're doing that prequel project right now and they don't need him for the Mufasa movie. But, what if we get straight to video sequels or something, or you're going to push The Lion King again, or you're going to reboot this or reboot that? Would they go ahead and try and...
Well, again, that's going to depend on what he stipulated in the contract, and I'm fairly certain that he specified that it was for Darth Vader, because Star Wars is a forever franchise, number one, and number two, because Darth Vader has a helmet on, you could use that character in infinitum as much as you want. So, whereas Mufasa, I don't think that's something he would have been thinking about because they hadn't done anything else with that character.
Well, they had, is at this point, at the point that he sold it, he had been Mufasa in The Lion King. He had been Mufasa in 1 or 2 straight-to-video sequels. He'd been Mufasa in the live-action CGI version of it.
The 2019
he might have even, I don't know if he lent his voice at all to there was a TV show for The Lion King, but he had done that in a number of different things by that point as well. But that's not a character he would probably have thought that they're going to keep using forever because, and again, that Disney being Disney, they would just never hire a narrator again if they had the right to use his voice forever for anything they wanted, because you could just, we'll just save money and just, have James do it, or have his,
the AI thing do that. Let's see. Uh,
The Lion King read aloud. Like I said,
As far as I saw, there was nothing beyond the Darth Vader likeness and kind of IP that he signed away to Disney overall.
but then
There
again,
was
you see, the question comes up is, did he even have to do that? Because they got permission to use Tarkin and redo that, and they got, I think, permission from Billy about CGIing Carrie as Leia, but Carrie herself always joked in her act that like George owned the rights to her likeness.
well, he does. They don't need to get permission. They do that for the sake of public, I guess, that being kosher with the public. But because once you die, you don't have any rights to nobody has any rights to your personage anymore.
Yeah.
Like anybody could, and granted that's written more as a celebrity thing, because average people that's usually not like an issue. But the idea that somebody can claim a copyright on a dead person, like how many movies or documentaries do you see over historical figures who've been dead forever?
But I'm sure that there are some sort of ways that you can do that, because I would imagine the estate of Marilyn Monroe and the estate of Elvis, at least for a period of time, maybe not to this date, were still
right. That's what I said. Those laws came about in the late 70s, where it was changed, and it was actually started by, I believe it was actually Bela Lugosi's son who had tried to pursue that, and eventually the law came down and said that no, you don't really have the right to something once they're dead or whatever. Sort of like how the copyright law for created works is like 95 years until it's in the public domain or whatnot, unless they keep renewing it. But with people, you can't really do that. Like, again, there's like a billion documentaries on historical figures. They're not tracking down their descendants to pay them any money for permission to do that. So, they can recreate the light. Because technically, ever since David Prowse died, when you have Darth Vader on screen, it's like Prowse created that character. So, in a way, it's kind of his likeness if you're imitating everything about him. But it's not like. But even then, in 2005, when they made Revenge of the Sith, they didn't have to pay David Prowse because they put Hayden in the suit. Yeah. Even though it's technically the same likeness, because it's just the guy in the suit. But
for Rogue One, you put Spencer Wilding in the suit and just trying to do that same affectation and the walk and the.
Even Mark Hamill said as much. He's like, I don't own the character. I'm just inhabiting the character right now. But they own the character and the likeness. And then unless you negotiate royalties for certain things, then they're not just going to outright pay you for the hell of it. Unless it's, again, like if it's merchandise, I don't know if the actors, like if Mark or Carrie in their lifetimes get a slice of the merchandise that's sold with their likeness. I don't think so. Yeah. Because, no, I doubt it, because the Lucas and them owns the likeness to it. They just royalties are for movies.
Lucas made like so much money. I think Star Wars is one of the reasons why we have the merchandising that we do. Is he made so much money on the back end because he kept the merchandising rights, because he had to give away everything else that he could to get the movie made. Yep. And nobody imagined that he was going to make so much out of the merchandising. I think Batman 1989 is Nicholson took a humongous cut in his upfront pay because he kept it, traded it, did whatever for rights to the merchandise. And I think even he got the rights to the merchandise for the first anticipated 3 movies that he wasn't even going to be in, and just made money off of that. So
yeah,
it's kind of extraordinary. Yeah, I did come across a report. I think might have been from Deadline, not their initial tribute, but one after that. That James Earl Jones was offered 1/20th of the earnings for Star Wars, which he declined, and just kept the $7K, tiny little drop in the ocean. As a massive amount of money, of course. Yes. We don't want to gloss over that, but a drop in the ocean compared to what could have been and would have been given the success of Star Wars in 1977.
So he got paid $7,000. So it was $7,000 that he got for Darth Vader.
$7,000 for 2 hours worth of work for the original movie.
Star Wars: A New Hope. Yeah,
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's actually exceptionally good for that. In '77, man, 1/20th of box office. That's a lot more.
yeah.
Or merchandising, or whatever the 20th was.
Yeah,
I think it would have been the total, the kind of project amalgamation that George Lucas talked 20th Century Fox into giving him, and whichever characters or actors agreed afterwards. But I think again it just speaks back to his humility, I think, and the fact that he was very non-materialistic. Again, I'm having you repeated to say the 2 hours for 7,000 is gigantic.
yes,
But I think just looking into account with all his kind of interviews and quotes and articles about him from elsewhere, he does seem to be, for someone who's so superlative in everyone's memory and as a performer, he has always come across as very grounded and very centered. And I think that's a huge part of why his cast and crew that worked with him loved doing so.
yeah.
I think it's also because the reason he may have sold it is because in the event that there be any changes to the law in the future, you could still have it and not worry about it.
Right. Is he, at that point, I would hope that at that point, James Earl Jones did not need the money that he was offered, whatever sum that would be. I would hope he had, had enough deals that. But if you're talking about leaving your legacy and you want it to remain your legacy, is he has allowed that is going to be his character forever. They're not going to go get the voice, have to find a voice match and allow the possibility of some other actor to make it their own. Is think about the legacy of Alec Guinness. Okay, Star Wars fans, and that have been around since the original trilogy. Star Wars fans, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you say, oh, it's Alec Guinness. But is it Alec Guinness or is it Ewan McGregor? Is Ewan McGregor has, in his own right, and to credit to him, he's done an amazing job and he's brought it, and he gives credit to Alec Guinness for his performance and what he's doing.
Yeah.
But, someone else has that share of the legacy of that character is from the Clone Wars and from Star Wars Rebel. You also have James, who is doing Ewan McGregor, and then as it gets older, he's doing Ewan McGregor, but transferring it to more of an Alec Guinness, and he's doing voice matches for kind of both. But that's two other people who have put their mark on that character, and Vader, you're not going to get that. Vader is James Earl Jones, at least the voice part of it. Gonna be.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, because based off of how I felt watching The Phantom Menace the first time alone, I would never have thought Ewan McGregor, after that performance and in that film, would have been as much a part of Obi-Wan Kenobi as he is, and as you say.
Yeah.
Where right now in fairness, it feels 50-50. Although in screen time, it's significantly more for Ewan versus Alec Guinness.
Mm-hmm.
But,
and the fact that James did such a nice match for Ewan, that so much of the Clone Wars feels like you're watching Ewan. If you weren't a fan of Star Wars and absolutely know that, oh, that's James and that's what he does, and it just kind of, because the character is modeled after Ewan's look, as you just see more and more of, oh, that's just adding to that kind of prequel era Obi-Wan.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. We're a little bit over our time, and I wanted to share one more story about the legacy of James Earl Jones. It's a little bit adjacent there, and just how much his presence is felt and is going to last on in everyone's everyday lives. Is so this week, you guys know that my family lost our beloved German Shepherd, and we lost him. His way too young, way too young. He was just died unexpectedly, and he was not what you think. I'm not going exactly where you think it is. His name was Hulk. You know, we tend to give all of our German Shepherds a German name. They're registered German Shepherds, and they have to have. So his name translates into Gamma Ray Hero in German, and I can't pronounce it. I wouldn't do it justice, so I'm not even going to try. But so we called him the Hulk since he's Gamma Ray Hero. But his legacy lives on a little bit in that he fathered two completely unexpected litters of puppies, and his one of the ones that we are closely associated with, that lives just next door, that my cousins own, is he fathered a solid black German Shepherd that they chose to name Vader. They're not even Star Wars fans. Okay, that's to the level of where this comes, is how much that character is known. They're not fans. They see a solid black, really menacing looking dog, and where does your mind go? Darth Vader. Of course, that being a good quality German name or German word for father. So, I'm just saying is when we miss James Earl Jones and I miss Hulk, I'm just going to go, Hulk was, of course, Vader's father. See where I went with that? That was a long way to go to get to that circle in there. But it's just the kind of things you're going to think about, and you're always going to remember from those roles of James Earl Jones.
Yeah. And he is the voice that popularized the circle of life to many of us.
It is. Thank you. That one I like there too. It is the circle of life, and that is what happens with our loved ones as they become the grass. Anyway, friends, people, everyone watching, thank you for watching yet another episode of the Unifying Force. We will be back and do it again in 2 weeks with another topic that we are unsure of yet. But if you want to watch, some more goodness of some of the things that we've talked about, is we've got the show is Rebels Revisited is going to be on the Monday night, and then Rebels Revisited is very fast approaching to become the Clone Wars Revisited, talking about the work of James as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the effect that show has had on the Star Wars mythos, whatever, as well. But until the next time, may the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you all. And with Hulk too, yeah.